Today, we're diving into a really powerful set of rules for life, kind of like a conqueror's guide. The whole idea is to build a stronger, more disciplined you. And it all starts by totally flipping the script on what it even means to be a conqueror. Right off the bat, this guide challenges you to look inward. When you hear the word conqueror, you probably think of huge armies and external battles. But the real point here, the most important victory, is the one you win over yourself. That's the foundation for this whole thing, self-mastery. So, how do you get there? Well, this path to mastering yourself is broken down into 3 main pillars. It's a pretty clear roadmap, and, just like it says, the entire journey has to start from the inside out. Let's break down that first pillar. Okay, pillar 1, forging the will. This is your foundation. Think about it. Before you can deal with anything the world throws at you, you have to build an unbreakable inner strength, a solid core of discipline. So let's dig into the specific steps the guide gives us for doing exactly that. So how do you actually forge this will? The guide gives us a 3-step process. First, take heed. This is all about building self-control in a world that has, let's be honest, very little restraint. That alone is a superpower. Then, stay persistent. You've got to be relentless. And finally, maintain focus. That's the discipline to keep your eyes on the prize, no matter what tries to distract you. These 3 together, that's the bedrock of your inner fortress. What's so interesting here is how it frames discipline. It's not about being hard on yourself or about restriction, not at all. The guide presents it as a strategic tool. Self-discipline is basically the ultimate way to rig the game in your favor, to minimize your chances of failure by taking control of your own actions. And that strategic thinking gives us more blueprints for this inner fortress. This isn't a one-and-done thing. It's a daily commitment. You've got to show up and give it your all every single day and be productive. But just as important, you have to defend against enemies from within. The guide is super clear about the dangers of pride and complacency. You can't get comfortable. The second you start dwelling on past wins is the second you start losing. All right, so once you've started forging that inner will, you have to learn to look outward. And that brings us to pillar 2, surveying the field. This is all about how you strategically navigate the world around you, especially your interactions with other people. So the guide lays out 2 main ways to learn, and it definitely has a favorite. You can learn through your own experience, making mistakes, falling flat on your face, and dealing with the consequences. Or you can learn through observation. By watching others, you gain the same wisdom without having to suffer the pain yourself. The guide is pretty clear. Observation is way better because it's smarter, it's safer, and it actually makes you more tuned in to other people. To help you navigate those interactions, we get these rules of engagement. It starts with gathering intel. You have to actually listen, not just wait for your turn to talk. And get this, it totally redefines strength. It says knowing when to ask for help is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. And finally, being respectful and peaceable, that's not just about being nice. It's a strategic advantage. Okay, we've covered the inner world and the outer world. That brings us to our 3rd and final pillar, the campaign for wisdom. And notice the word campaign. This isn't something you achieve once. It's framed as a lifelong, relentless mission to gain more knowledge and understanding. And wow, this quote just perfectly captures the mindset, doesn't it? Treat knowledge like it's cash. Go after it with the same hunger you'd have for getting rich, because in the end, it's a resource that's just as valuable, maybe even more valuable for building the life you want. I think that's just an incredibly powerful way to look at learning. So if knowledge is the treasure, what's the enemy? Well, according to this guide, it's ignorance. But here's the twist. Ignorance isn't just a passive lack of information. It's an active choice. The guide says if you don't know something, it's on you to do the research, ask the questions, and figure it out. Knowingly choosing to stay in the dark, that's a total failure in the system. The guide wraps up with these lessons, framed as wisdom learned from the battlefield of life. The number 1 strategy? Learn from history so you're not doomed to repeat it. Your main target? Your own ignorance. The strongest alliance you can make is unity, because division will always leave everyone with nothing. And finally, every campaign, every bit of growth requires sacrifice. It's just part of the deal. So what does this all add up to? When you pull all 3 of these pillars together, you get this unified philosophy for life. You get the Conqueror's Code. It's really a 3-part system, and each piece builds on the next. You start by forging an unbreakable will through your own discipline. Once you have that solid foundation, you can survey the field, using your awareness to navigate the world. And you fuel the whole thing with a lifelong campaign for wisdom, because that constant learning is what lets you adapt, grow, and truly conquer. So, to wrap this up, let's go back to the guide's most aggressive-sounding tip. It says the goal in any battle is to totally obliterate your adversary. But after everything we've talked about, after realizing the conqueror is a master of the self, that leaves us with one last massive question to think about. Who, or what, is your real adversary? Is it your own ignorance, your own complacency, your own lack of discipline? And that right there is what the conqueror's path is all about.